which we are planning regularly every week almost. I'm also planning to have a few more sessions like interviews kind of thing with the, I mean, not the mock interviews, but also the interviews with the techies. Let's say I know few senior data architects, data decision makers. So I'm planning to take them on a half an hour schedule, and then we'll be asking few questions about their experiences and their challenges, whatever they have faced. So likewise, I'm also planning to have few more sessions. So let's get into today's session. Today's session is about data engineering practices, cloud especially, what we follow for various different organizations. This is focused on one organization which Manoj was working. So Manoj is one of my very good friend since 2012. So we almost worked 6 years together on two different organizations. Initially, during when we were so young, like freshers, we started working. For first 2.5 years, we were together, and then later, uh, we got a few opportunities later. From 2016 to 2018 or 2019, we were working together for a product company based out of US, a mortgage-based product company. There we started doing a lot of innovations on big data, where we both were leading the similar team where with the different responsibilities, focusing on creating a proper data infrastructure for which focuses on the cloud digitization. That was the time when the company wanted to have more cloud digitization, and then we were doing mostly the POCs, POCs in the sense taking the existing complex model. The company used to give not the easiest one for us to do POC, the complex stuffs to be implemented on the cloud, because in 2017 and all, the cloud was very uh, I mean, like not very famous, and also it was newly introduced. Many components were not very good on the functionality wise, and integration was missing. So the company wants to do certain, uh, I mean, tests on the organization about related to the existing use cases which are running. So we analyzed the whole use cases. We had a team who were actively participating on migrating model from SAS to Python, SAS to PySpark. So like we were not able to achieve everything on PySpark initially. So we used Python in between. Like we did a lot of R&D, I would say. So the likewise, then I left the organization and I started the company. Manoj was taking care of the complete role, and he has done a lot of great things in the organization, which he's going to show us and let us know something. So let's get into the session. So in this session, we'll be focusing on cloud data engineering practices based on Databricks, which is one of the most important and vital thing in the organization, in most of the organizations. In future, I'll be also having a session about a new introduction in Microsoft, which is Synapse, how that Synapse is overtaking or planning to overtake Databricks, which will be discussed later. And also, Manoj will be talking about use cases related to it, and also why they choose certain tools like Google BigQuery and Snowflake. And that's what. Let's see from Manoj. So Manoj, you can start sharing the screen.
Yeah, sure. I think you given an intro
Yeah, you
already
can give a small
almost.
introduction
Yeah,
about it. That's not a
no, I
problem.
think I'm telling already how many came here, all intro. So after actually Navneet left the company, right? So actually we have kind of more work into Azure, and then we procure actually GCP also. We moved from Azure to GCP, and we had a lot of component, and we have integrated many things over there. So I'm gonna explain each and every use case, what we did and what we did to overcome the existing challenges, right? I'm gonna explain one by one. So I'm gonna start sharing the screen. So please let me know if you're able to share this, to see the screen. Is it visible?
Yes, Manoj. Yes.
Is it visible? Yeah. Okay. Right. The product used, as you guys know, right? So most of actually data engineering, we moved out of ETL tool, like a traditional ETL tool, and we move out of all those things, right? So I think our company started initially at 2018, kind of a thing. We moved into a new project. I think I especially moved into a new project where we want to move away from batches, since it is a mortgage company. There is a lot of payment related activity. There's a lot of info. The jobs are running on a kind of end basis, right? The US, the business hour ends. So there is a lot of one-time job will trigger, and there is a mainframe available. There's a lot of things. People will not get data in real time. Even the battery sometimes actually very slow. So we introduced actually Kafka there. So where we want to do everything in real time, that is where actually Kafka came in. Now the entire company is stabilized to use a Kafka in wherever real time needs. We almost using Kafka. After that, the ETL we want to move away and we use like database. All these things you are seeing right. Most of the data engineers should be using. So some of them is still in the phase of using ETL tool like the data stage talent or any other tool. So these are the things you're gonna learn and make your career high if you want to move to a traditional ETL tool. Right? Because I'm saying these tools are not gonna stay here for a longer time like a traditional tool. So these are the tools actually currently we are using in our company to make sure, right, leverage all the cloud native platform, and then we will try to implement everything in that. I think hope everyone know the diagram what are we putting, right? Google Cloud Storage and what is GCP and what is a Delta Lake. It is related to Databricks. So hope everyone actually know these platforms already. If you don't know, maybe we can explain a bit later. This is all a different kind of a components we using in the company. So maybe I can explain one in detail. So as of now, in the who were there in the meeting, are you guys know exactly what are this diagram components about, or anyone know? Anyone still not aware of some of the components here?
Yeah, we can have a small description, Manoj. Let's say
Okay.
maybe I can give a short description about the tools.
Yeah.
Like
Correct.
the organization was actually getting many data from the lenders and also a few other organizations which were giving real-time data, because that was a mortgage-based organization where we have to get data from various different entities on different formats. So normally what we do is we get the data, we connect, we have a Kafka entity which can welcome the APIs, and also it can store the data for a short period of time. Kafka has a retention. So the data which are coming on Kafka message queue will be processed on a real time, and also it can be replayed. That is what the advantage of Kafka. So the data from various different entities will be collected by the Kafka. And then, based upon the use cases, the reason why we have the session today is Manoj will explain the use cases. There are a lot of tools. You could see the Manoj gave a very good explanation that using Databricks, writing ETL through Databricks, they were trying to reduce the usage of the traditional ETL tool. That was the plan when we started a digital journey, because the traditional ETL tools are mostly on-premises based. And when you use on-premises based, you have the company started feeling that the cost and the query per cost is kind of costly one. So, and also the investments are very high. You have to pay yearly the licenses. See, that's fine up to some level when you have a target of digital transformation from the customer, from the business side. The strategies are well defined. In that in that sense, we have to use a cloud native company, and that was a trend in US. Like all the companies wanted to reduce the cost, and they were exploring the opportunities on cloud to effectively utilize the process. And
Yeah.
also, the COVID became a very big opportunity for many cloud companies, because the companies were forced to change the business model at the beginning of the COVID, because everybody were working in a different style. Like even we take our any retail or I mean apps or food delivery apps. They were having a lot of different options during the COVID, but there were some restrictions due to the government regulations and various other strategies on the businesses changes. So the companies wanted to do it as first. So they wanted to have a simpler tool. That is the reason why Databricks became more popular is, it's very easy for you to create the pipeline, orchestrate it, and operate it, schedule it. So, whereas rather than writing as complex, I mean, even in the native Spark, if you're using Spark on Cloudera or any other infrastructure, you have to write the code from the scratch. So you have to create a jar file, or you have to create a Python file, then schedule it in Oozie. So that was the complicated steps we followed. But when it comes to Databricks, you have notebook, which is very easy, and you can have use ADF, which Manoj will be explaining what is ADF. So likewise, there are tools, and the you we will discuss about why Google Cloud, because and which use cases induced them to use Google Cloud and Snowflake. You can see most of the what is that? The technologies on the resumes are here. So let's get into the next slide, Manoj.
Yeah, so right. I think already Navneet explained it, what is the moving to cloud. So mostly, right, as he told already, the EE tools are really costly nowadays, right? For example, if you take actually data stage, right, there is based on the load or how much storage we are using in the backend, it's a kind of a cost is different. But kind of take for some other talent as an example, it is a per user we need to pay some money. So every tool has a different way of usage. For example, talent, if you have only 10 license, if you want to suddenly increase the jobs to be 10 to 100, and there is a new project coming in, you need to increase the license. So right, the each and everything is actually a bit costly, but it is a kind of a UA based, all the SQL, that there is no need to write code, right? That is the main advantage of the normal traditional ETL tool. But the cost is a bit higher, as you told, after COVID, whatever now it is say, right? People are moving away from a traditional tool, and we have a still data science talent, SSIS. There is a lot of ETL tools still in picture, but there is a kind of a migration project already going on to moving away from that. So that is and all happening. So each and every company will actually take that step. Maybe if a company still not taking it, so maybe they will take it in sooner or later. But we are mostly moving away from that ETL tool. But even that ETL tools are actually giving now all the cloud connectors, right? We are able to connect to any kind of a clouds. They are also actually trying to improve their UI by having a lot of a cloud connector. Everything is there, but still there is actually a disadvantage to use it there because it is a kind of a costly, right? So and of the company is moving to cloud, you have a storage, everyone is trusting to the cloud. Right? If you want to move actually data transfer from cloud to on-rise, or actually both way, it's a kind of a very costly, right? Each and every time you need to make sure there is a IPv teaching happen, there is a port need to be open. We need to make sure we have a secure way of connection between the two things, right? So these are a lot of security things also happening. At so most of the things because of that kind of thing, right? The mostly moving to cloud, they're keeping all the infrastructure, everything in cloud so that you can play around within a one particular cloud native platform. You no need to move around, and there is a lot of team involved. If you go to a traditional ETL tool and you're having some part of the things in cloud, it is very not very easy to connect and get the data. Right? And that is the one thing. And then low maintenance and cost, right? All the clouds are having actually a pay-as-you-go model. So what is happening, right? In case if any project is going to stop at some point of time, you can simply stop the application. You're going to pay at that time, right? That. So that is actually a low maintenance, and they are providing a 99.9% SLA. Sometimes Azure is 99.999, they would say. So it is a kind of they have actually maintained everything with their side. So no need to maintain a separate team to maintain the storage, a separate DBA to own the server. Everything will be actually maintained by them. So that is the main reason for like now itself, right? The query, everything is bit costly. Each and every SQL query we performing on BigQuery, it is costly. Everything is cost, but still the amount of money we spent on resources and other components in the on-premise that can be saved a bit in the cloud, right? And maybe the next thing is software as a service. Database is a separate company, but still they are onboard their application into a marketplace like Azure and Google Cloud, because we have a kind of a database in both Azure uh, and GCP. So right, it is called we used to call as a Azure database, and here it is called as a Google database. It is same. But if you're giving a software as a service, like everything will be very easy storage. So we can take a storage within actually GCP and host a database if you want to host something from the GCP marketplace. So everything is giving a software as a service. It is very easy, right? Like if you're uh, taking actually Mongo or any kind of a Cassandra, any kind of a thing which you want to take it, you want to move on to cloud. all the application already present in the on-premise state. It mostly available in the cloud. It is very
Correct.
easy to spin up, and you're able to connect everything easily within cloud. So people are mostly actually moving away,
Different.
right? The only
Yeah.
thing you want to learn here is, right? Yeah, Navneet, sorry.
Yeah, good, good, good.
Yeah. The only thing you want to learn here is pretty much same. Each and every different cloud provider, everyone is giving the same with actually a different name. Like for example, we call as a S3 in AWS,
AWS.
right? In Azure is called ADLS, and GCP is called bucket. Everything is same. They want to make sure data coming and landing at a one storage layer in every kind of a cloud, and then they want to use the data in the downstreams. That is what everyone is doing. That is actually a good model because the storage cost is very, very cheap. If you're storing, and you can store a file or images, and you can have a JSON, you can have a raw format data the company want to bring into the system. So we can bring that into a raw layer, and you can use that as a permanent layer, right? You can have a archival policy or whatever you want to do. You can do on the storage. How many years you want to store the raw data? You can have that as a backup whenever something goes wrong. So right, everything will be there. So it is very easy to move it. So the only thing is extra application or something like Navani said is Azure Synapse, right? So it is only a tool within Azure that is having the one data engine. Everyone can work on the same tool, and they can give a different solution. So
Correct.
actually, that is the main reason moving to cloud nowadays. It is very easy to do all those things.
Correct. Adding few more points. So we have seen few customers, even in Gulf region, where or a EU, they wanted to reduce the cost. They want to reduce the cost of ETL licenses. But like Manoj was telling that some of the ETL tools they charge based upon the servers, some of the ETL tools they charge based upon servers and also the users. So
Yes,
the companies who adopt a Spark-based environment or a Snowflake, they wanted to reduce the the on-premises usage so that they will, like, for one of a customer we have moved recently 200 ATL jobs from Talent to Spark. So that was the achievement they wanted to do, and they have reduced a lot of licenses cost. Because they already have Spark environment which needs to be properly utilized. So that is that's what you don't need to have multiple environments. You can if certain activities can be done through one environment, that is what efficiency do. And data transfer cost. Okay, this could be mostly one time when you transfer data from on-premises to cloud, but every data architect on the cloud, you have to think about few things. See, in cloud, there are multiple different or multiple costing involved. Let's say the biggest saving what we can do is utilization of VMs. Okay, so you can see the cost of query is directly aligned with the processing TCO. The processing capacity needed. The most important thing other than that is like the data transfers. So how much ever you are reducing the data transfer, you save that cost. Because I've seen some cloud practices where some services, let's say I'm implementing service now. Okay, consider that service doesn't have a component in my region. So what I do is I create another tenant and I use the cross tenant mode, and I use the service which has the impact on cost because you are moving data from one data center to other data center, even though it is on the same cloud. Later, maybe after 3 months, you get the same services on your region, and you can configure that on a tenant. That will be an effective one rather than using the previous one. This kind of components which companies are missing, because we recently assessed one cloud infrastructure where they feel that the costs are becoming high, and we clearly understood that they have nearly three regions which are actually collaborating each other, and we found an opportunity to reduce the cost at least 50 to 20%. So, and also try to, let's say there are some services which can be utilized inside cloud itself, whereas you would be using that in on-premises. Let's say one of our customer is expecting Couchbase to be on cloud in the region where because they are using Couchbase on premises. So they have a use case for Couchbase, and Databricks, but Databricks is in cloud and Couchbase is on premises. Now, if we gave a proper evaluation that you also have Couchbase in the Azure, but that is I think March month they have released here in UAE also. So in the region also. So we just told them that wait for some time. You will have Couchbase coming on cloud. Once that is done, you can start using your Couchbase on cloud and Databricks so that you will have lesser cost. These are few important things which many people are missing because these are not taught anywhere. Everybody, even Microsoft or any other courses, they will teach how to use the components. But when you have to be very clear about the data centers, the cross data center costs are involved and hybrid. When you say hybrid, you have to be very clear because hybrid also has a cost because you move from AWS to GCP only
Yes.
if the use cases permits you to do it, and if the use cases are more critical, you have to do it. Not you because it's again a cost. You have you're moving data from one place to other place is a cost. So these are few things which you have to be because when you say cloud, I have seen some customers saying that okay, cloud is low. Why I'm paying this much? Why my Databricks is costing high, or why my Snowflake is if I calculate 5 years utilization of my on-premises, my now my Snowflake is costing high. These are the certain things you can see in Stack Overflow or some forums are actually having such kind of messages. Those are true because usage of cloud is different and effective usage of cloud is different. So we have to just we cloud has let's say 1,000 components, and there are 4 or 5 different components for each purpose. You have to see. Let's say uh, there was a use case where we evaluated Couchbase, Cosmos DB, and Mongo. So there was a score for everything we derived, and then we have decided to go with the Cosmos or Couchbase. Then, if Couchbase is in Azure, then it's because the use case were demanding certain features which are available on those tools. So, like there was a person who asked, why can't we do this on Hive? Yes, you can do it on Hive, but the load what Hive can handle, or let's say you can do the same query on Hive and you can get same result on Hive, but the internal processing, your speed, whatever you expect, you also have real-time capabilities. Those are actually those differs, which means still you are doing a high maintenance. And software as a service, every cloud are having multiple components and also the bundles. So let's say Microsoft has a Fabric bundle recently released with Synapse Data Engineering, Synapse Data Science, this Lake House, or that's called One Lake with Delta Lake and Lake House, all open source. You also have ADLS Gen 2, ADF. So if you use those, but Power BI Pro licenses are given in the bundle. So if you use those bundles, you also have more cost reduction because those bundles, all the components of those bundles are available within the region, within all the regions. So that's what the tips you have to take when you move to cloud. Okay, to be an effective cloud data architect or effective data cloud data engineer or mature data engineer who advises the team and get a more credibility on the team. Because just by seeing some Microsoft video or a blog or everything, you have to articulate these things. You have to assess those features and you have to assess the cost. That is one of the most important thing to be the good cloud engineer or cloud architect. Yes, Manoj, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. And one more thing to add on to Navneet said, right? So sometimes what happens, we have a project. It is better, right? If you have a particular region within the US, right? That particular data center, you can, but better to make sure host all those applications within the particular data center. The issue whatever Navneet faced, right, due to cost and billing, and suddenly they change. It is better in a company, they mostly have a kind of a dedicated data center, right? They want to host everything in a particular so that all the cloud cost between, because already there is a one project coming in, it is giving an advantage. They found something good on that. So there is a another project starting based on that output. So better, right? Keep everything in a one particular data center. Need to make sure everything right. It is very easy to handle. Otherwise, the cost, like moving from cloud to on-prem is also costly, and within cloud also, if you move data between data centers, also it is a bit of costly. So we need to understand that perspective while building a application or anything on the project from the architecture level itself. We need to understand whether these components are available in any of the cloud. If you want to host it, how you make uh, efficient data transfer between those applications with low cost, right? We need to understand that also while actually starting the application, because the entire company having some follow some kind of a data center path, hosting everything over there. If you come in the middle and change the part, it is a problem, right? You need to, there is a transfer cost across the company if you want to read data from one application to another application. So make sure this is one of the best thing. And other than that, add on to that, while creating application, also we need to make sure how many nodes are based on the use case. We need to take it. Sometimes, right, we will give us a high option. We can end up in paying a lot of money. After 1 or 2 months, we are able to find out for our business use case, this is not the node, this is not the storage we want. And suddenly after 3 months, we will actually scale down, right? Scaling up is different. But if you want to scale down, the 2 or 3 months costs which you are spending is based, right? I think try to go with the smaller nodes, even in a developer purpose of whatever you're taking. After that, after went to production, it is not a on-premise, right? We can take actually 2 weeks of time or 3 weeks of time to add a node. The scaling up is very easy in any of the cloud, right? So better go with the smaller configuration while creating application. After it is actually we went to production, we can actually scale up based on the data. Because sometimes projects for the first time, we don't know how much amount of data comes in, how much of, because sometimes I will join, make it a lot of data. We never know where we went wrong. So in that case, if that's a project is going to a production, and make sure it is going good. If you want to scale up, you can scale up later. Don't scale down in the middle of the project, so you will have actually uh, high cost onto that. So you need to
Yeah,
keep
and
that in mind.
yeah, and one more thing, like I've seen many developers are using this dynamic query allocation, where it can take the whole space in the cluster when you are running the job. The other jobs will not be parallelized, will not be properly parallelized. So you have to assess the containers, cores, and all the resources required. I see one more important thing. If you are a data engineer and you are doing Spark or anywhere, you have Teradata or anywhere, you need to understand the resource utilization. In Spark, you have the DAG. Through DAG, you can easily predict like how many shuffles are happening, and what kind of complex transformations are. You have to know how to interpret that. That is one of the most important skill. And if you are using Teradata, you need to know how many ARMs are being utilized. Likewise, every data engineering tools are having their own matrices to calculate that. That is one of the most important thing which you as a data engineer have to do it. And Manoj gave very good example that scaling up and scaling down is actually having issues. And also he explained, he gave one very good note that align with the organization. So see, you might have done some very good use cases on a previous organization, or you could have seen most of the people make this mistake that the sales meetings or the webinars are not for every companies. Okay, so I have seen like even my seniors or somebody who are more enthusiastic. Yeah, it's fine. You can share whatever meetings you are attending and letting the company or everybody knows that there is a technology. But some people what they do is see, align with the company. It's also about align with your ego and the company, because I have seen personally and also in many organizations, there will be somebody who say, okay, no, we have to use this cloud is the most interesting thing, or this component. But the most important thing whatever you have to decide for an organization is the use case driven component selection. And one more thing is, you may have one use case or 15 use case running on one component. Okay, but you have for 16th use case which is not a flavor of that component. You need to give a proper suggestion and make the architecture review board enable the second component for the 16th use case with a proper justification. That is what we have to do. If we are suggesting a tool, it should not it's like flipping a coin with a proper plan. So you have to be very clear that you are giving proper justification. Okay, so in that case, if your ARB seriously feel that okay, your justification is fine, and it is useful with the cost reduction, because I have seen like certain infrastructure or certain bundles have been bombarded because of 15th use case just deployed, because they have planned for certain things where the 15th use case is totally crushing the whole infrastructure, because use case can be done on many data infrastructure, but where the effective utilization or the proper let's say let's say time series has a certain components which has to be utilized. So that is one most important thing which many organizations or many data architects or data engineers are missing. And don't get hurt if the component you prefer or you worked or you liked is not been approved by the ARB, because ARB knows if you are in ARB also, you have the same authority. You have to decide the organization component for the organization alignment. And also the effective, because at the later point of view, the architecture review board will have a question, why you approved this component? And you know, it's very easy. So align with the organization, and also uh, select the components which are most effectively utilized in, which can be most effectively utilized in the organization. And also the resource utilization have to be properly planned. Do it on UAT, test it, and uh, let's say eventually there will be a need to improve it also. So have a practice that you are deploying something this month, make a proper reminder on the system that after 3-4 months the same thing has to be assessed again, because you start with 100k records per day, but you may have a 130k records coming from the upstream after 3 months. So you have to properly assess that, and the eventual increase of resources are also required. If not, one time the cluster will be highly occupied. So these are the gaps which many people are missing, because like somebody knows, okay, but see, before 3 years the job was, before 3 months the job was running fine. Now it is not running. You have to do the analysis. Maybe before 3 months you were running with 100k records, and now the same job is running with 130k record, which needs a different sizing. So these are few interesting data engineering concepts, I would say, which is a recursive improvement on the jobs have to be made. Uh, which will give you, let's say, if you are a mature data engineer, if you explain such things to the interview, that adds more value. And also, when you are in an organization, and you work in such organized way, you have a good credits, because and also the organization trust you a lot, and they'll give you more I mean, definitely could be money, but also the more value. That is the most important thing. Go ahead, Manoj.
Yeah. So now the next thing is right. How to choose cloud partner. There is a specific reason how we can choose a cloud partner. Sometimes, so what happened, right? Like an example, right? So we cannot go, for example, sometimes a company, they will have a partnership tie-ups suddenly with the example like in GCP or Azure. They were given some kind of a credits, right? So sometimes it is an advantage, sometimes it is a kind of a disadvantage, correct? So if you have some kind of a 5 million credits, sometimes given one company, right? If you put a partnership with that, so they have a problem, not a problem. They need to choose some kind of application within that particular cloud partner, right? So sometimes we don't know whether we need to use it or not, but because of using that credits or discount, we will to say, right? For that discount, we end up using some kind of application which we don't want to use it. So this is all kind of happening, right? Sometimes we'll work with the ML use case, right? So we are in our company, we are trying to do something like, or if you take on any company where they are trying to automate something like a customer repository where they want to reduce the calls, right? They're using all of ML and then AI stuff to make sure how we can reduce the cost per call, right? The call is very best, very cost in US. So they want to reduce that call. So how are they doing? They're doing a lot of things, but some of the things it will be available in some other cloud partner because they have some kind of a partnership with the current cloud. They have a discount on all those things. So they will end up in using that thing, but we don't know whether it will give an efficient output, right? So there is an advantage and sometimes there is a disadvantage, kind of disadvantage too. So there is no reason to choose any kind of a cloud. But if there's a kind of a database or something we can host in Azure or GCP, that is different. But if you want to do some AI stuff or any kind of a thing, you can actually think of which platform is giving the correct. So because there is a lot of thing in the marketplace, whether it is a GCP or Azure AWS, there are lot of things coming on like in Vertex AI. There is a lot of things in GCP, and there is a different kind of a thing where we can build a AI in a simpler way. Correct. So there is a no way to choose a cloud partner. It is based on the company and the organization how they want to actually choose it. Sometimes they will end up in a wrong cloud partner. After that, they will choose a right partner. And then what happened? 1 or 2 years, most of the team will work on actually migrate the data from that particular partner to this partner. This actually happened in many organizations because they don't know what need to end up. But sometimes, right, it is better to choose a one single cloud
Yeah,
partner
I
and then
remember one Tamil
yeah,
comedy actually, which comes in a movie called Masala Cafe, where they say, "Parthi in the kudanla podu." Like there is a cotton bag, put it in. They have three people to work. One guy was having three people, three of them to work. So he says, first guy, okay, put this cotton bag in first godown. Second guy, take the cotton bag from first godown and put it on second godown. Then second to again first. So, so I've seen some companies, they were actually adopting AWS, which was not properly utilized. I don't blame
everything,
cloud. Yeah. Huh?
everything. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes
I
they
don't.
tell us multi-cloud and they're having everything like an
Yeah, yeah,
Azure,
yeah. That is one
GCP,
of the
AWS.
interesting Azure because see 2018, 2019, 2020, everybody were interested to give free credits to all the companies. Okay,
Yes,
so again there was a groupism inside the company where somebody says, oh, because they are certified in AWS, they say, okay, I'm doing AWS this use case, and then the other set of people are good on Microsoft, so they say, okay, I'm doing this on Microsoft. After some point, the credits are over. Companies were getting bigger bills from all the three, and also there were
yes,
few companies like what I told the comedy, right? So they just created 15 use cases on AWS. That was because everybody were learning. That is again not to be completely blamed because now you could see some mature Azure engineers or AWS engineer, but in 2020 and all, they were everybody wants to learn, and their organization was the prey, which means they were the one who pays the bill. So people were just connecting the components, not finding opportunities about the effective utilization because they were also beginners. Okay, so the people were checking, okay, this works or not. Okay, if it works, fine. Something like a trial and error. So and then the organization, then Microsoft comes after 1 year and they say, oh my God, your utilization is very high. If you move to Azure, we can give you 30% cost saving. Already there was a commitment of cost saving from on-premises to the cloud one. Now cloud one to cloud two is suggesting 30% cost reduction. Then again, GCP comes and say, "Oh, you're still spending more money." See, there is a problem here. So organization will have cost on migration. Okay, these are not lift and shift most of the time. See,
yes,
one on a data engineer perspective, the cloud components are, let's say, Azure, AWS, and GCP are like riding different brand bike, which means a Suzuki bike or Honda or Yamaha. Only the name differs. Like Manoj clearly pointed out one thing that you have S3, ADLS Gen 2, and also Bucket. These are the just name difference where the protocols remain same. Maybe they have some different storage security patterns and other stuff, but component wise, the purpose wise, these are the components. Every cloud, and also I've seen people asking me, Navneet, I know Azure, but how can, but the organization is asking for AWS. I just tell them like, take 2 weeks of AWS resource, go to AWS videos and just see what are the alternatives, make that study, and you can take a free AWS credit and try check it or check the videos how it works, because these are not very complicated, not like learning a Spark, Snowflake, or different architectures. These are just you have to learn a different name. So there is no harm on uh, getting a new name, and there is that's what there is no Azure cloud expertise or AWS cloud expertise. It's just overall a cloud expertise. You need to know how the cloud
yeah,
works and the internal works. You can take GCP and see what is the alternative of PubSub in GCP. You can check. You have what is that Azure AWS managed Kafka is there. You also have Kinesis is there. So you have to see which one is going to be the alternative for it. Likewise, you can check Azure, what are the managed services available for it. So it's all just a comparative study, and it's just a barrier for you to go, just a small barrier where you can just knock it down and get into the next cloud and validate the components and start using it. There is nothing like that. So choosing a cloud partner is one of the strategy. Like Manoj was telling that the credits was the biggest. We are, the whole world is in a way that okay, freebies are first welcome, and the credits gave organization the liberty to do trial and error. So how Geo gave us the SIM and then later they charge it. Likewise, the organization wants to do a lot of trial, which credit was the uh, easiest way to explore it. So the company started using credits, and they cleared the 1 year credit in 3 months because everybody were learning, and then it started. So choosing a cloud partner, you can choose the partner based upon your organizational sales, procurement, and other things also. And you can utilize the component within the cloud effectively, or use cases. So let's say most of the businesses for GCP was because of BigQuery, because they have the component BigQuery was having very good feedback from different customers, and also the Google Analytics products were actually giving a good results. So the trust also matters. And many I think I can share one story what myself and Manoj we faced during the early stage of Azure, where we were using HD Insights. Azure was not having Databricks. Okay, so when we started Azure in 2018 or 2017 late, there were no Databricks. Databricks was a small company, maybe a 10-15 employees company or 20 employees company, or even I think in 2017, the people from Cloudera left Databricks and they were in discussion to start a Spark company. That time we had no option to use HD Insights. Other than using HD Insight, there were no option because the company were forcing us to do cloud, and there was no. We tried install Hortonworks on the VM, but that was not stable. So we found Hortonworks same packages was available on Azure HD Insights. Uh, we started spinning the service. We write some like we have automated it. There was a data science model we converted as a 4 months first POC for the organization to show that okay, the SaaS model can be converted to Spark, and that was like one of the biggest SaaS model they gave. Manoj and his team was
Proudly
working day
say
and night.
still the code is still in SaaS. Code is
Yeah,
still in SaaS.
yeah. So because that was just a proof of concept to show that okay, Spark can do it. So we did it on uh, HD Insights. But what happened was the code was able to run faster, but the infrastructure was not that great. We get a lot of
Yeah.
failures, and we automated in 2018 we automated flow that okay, only through ADF, not if now we have ADF v2, right? Previously it was normal ADF, that was also having a lot of connectivity issues, connector issues, integration issues. That was the beginning stage of Microsoft. Now Microsoft is very good on it, but we were on the early stage where like we converted everything, and we wrote the alternative code and all those things. The job which was running for 28 hours started running for 6-7 hours. So those kind of things, but the platform stability was a question mark. If you do the same thing now, we have very good infrastructure, we have very good we mature, the problems were solved by the cloud providers. So you can do the same thing in Azure, AWS, and GCP. Most of the components remain the same. You have Databricks everywhere, which can be utilized. As Manu told, we have Databricks in Azure, AWS, and GCP. And this, for the storage, you can use Gen 2 ADLS, or S3 bucket, or different, or even Iceberg-based services are also coming in cloud. Lakehouse is there, Delta for live. So likewise, there are a lot of great components are available in the market. So choosing a cloud partner is always a complicated question. A single person cannot answer. If you ask me and Manoj to do a debate, we don't come up on a same alignment. unless the points whatever we suggest, and because he may say Microsoft Azure, I may say GCP, because like then we can come to a conclusion based upon a lot of assessment. Not cannot be done within a fraction of second, or even a few calls. It has to be
Yeah.
decided based upon a lot of factors, where availability of the services on the region, uh, the cost, initial cost, whatever they give, the cap price, the components, flexibility to connect with your existing systems. Do they have lift and shift migrations available? So like a lot of components. Yeah. Go ahead, Manoj.
Yeah. And one more thing to add on here is right. So like the credits are always going to some kind of actually the discounts also, right? So for example, when company is doing for a year and they will think, okay, everything is good. After credit is over, they are actually expecting some cost. But what are the credits they are using? Sometimes they give some kind of a discount, some kind of a discount also. For example, especially for a BigQuery purpose, if you host in a particular project in BCP, they will say we will give actually a 20% discount only on that project. If you take for some new BigQuery project for some other team, the cost will be different there. We notice that. So you need to make sure whatever the agreement you put on when you sign, make sure after the credit is over, whether it is a normal cost or still the discount apply after that. That also we need to actually consider that while preparing any kind of a project. You need to make sure different kind of application. Some companies using only BigQuery, so make sure they have a discount on that. If you're gonna put a kind of a membership or kind of a tenure of 5 years, if you put in the company, they actually give a discount based on the most application which you are using. So, but if the credit is gone, again you need to pay a normal cost, right? If you are actually suddenly querying 5 billions of data with the aggregate on BigQuery, it will end up in costing too much once the credit or actually discount is over. So you need to make sure that also in picture or in mind once after credit is over. Just to add on to this. Okay.
Go ahead, Manoj.
Can I go next,
Yeah, yeah,
Navneet, or
please.
I need
Yes,
to
yes,
close?
yes.
Okay.
Next.
Yeah. Databricks, right? I think we discussed already, Navneet told, right? Like an unified data platform, right? So mostly, I think they come up with the solution like a Databricks, whether it's a Snowflake or any kind of Azure Synapse, whatever Navneet mentioned, right? Everything they want to keep a storage and also what the storage layer and consumption layer and maybe the processing layer, everything within a one single platform. So previously what happened, there is a ETL tool where we need to do only the processing logic and they will actually schedule that job. But the SQL as a source or SQL as a target will be a separate storage layer. We are ending up in paying cost for the source storage also, whether it is on-premise or cloud, and we end up in paying for a ETL tool also, right? So they want to make sure like whatever they say, they're saying as a lakehouse platform, like whether it is any data engineer or data analyst or ML engineer, anyone can work on in the one single platform, whether they can no need to share data across, right? So as a data engineer, you need to work with sometimes with the data analyst, sometimes reporting guy, sometimes you need to share data with the analysis team, kind of a data scientist who work on your data, right? They will always depend on the data, what you are ending up. So to make sure this entire people come under a one code, they're actually trying to derive like database, whatever they're trying to make sure it's a one single platform. So even now, what happening if you're actually not using a Delta Lake within the database, their marketing team still come to us and asking, you are using only as a processing layer. Why you are not using a Delta Lake as a storage, right? So that is not happening. But make sure if you buy Databricks, just make sure you whatever the things available within the Databricks you can able to use and everything. There's a different kind of things are available, right? If you're using only for a normal data engineering, you can use only that, and there is a ML engineering. There's a lot of three different components available within Databricks, so everyone can work on reading the data if you're storing the Delta Lake, right? That is very easy, right? Different team can work on into a single unified platform, so they can actually share data, right? And the scalability with these, as Navneet mentioned, it's already with the Spark cluster, right? Whatever this component or whatever the storage you're gonna take based on the use case in the compute cluster, I mean, say in Databricks, you need to make sure the what the Spark cluster you are choosing. In Dove, it may be a very small amount of data nodes and you need, but in the fraud, it may be different. So you can choose because based on that also you need to pay money, right? So you need to actually make sure how much resource you need or how many jobs you're gonna deploy in the workflow in data, whether it's 100 or maybe increase to 1,000. So make sure the compute cluster, the Spark cluster, you can also change the Spark config over there. So based on a use case and parallelism, you need sometimes millions of data comes in. Suddenly to change to 10 million. Your compute cluster need to be scale up, right? In case if you want to processing all the data in a quicker time. So you need to make sure all this scalability available. That is where the lightning fast data processing is happening. Very simplified data pipelines. So the thing is, it is very easy here. You can able to call a three different notebook in a one single workflow, right? Like in a normal ETL job where we have a dependency, right? We'll have a create a sequence job which will call all the parallel job in a sequence manner, right? Because one output is the input to a other job. So all those things also we can actually do here instead of going with the one single Python notebook schedule in a one single time. You can have a task added when you want to schedule a job within database. It is very easy to schedule more or five different things in a parallel, or you have a dependency between different notebooks also based on if you want to use the one output as an input to other job. So all those things are available here within Databricks. So if you want to move away from a ETL tool, right? If you want to have a storage also within a particular tool, then it is best to go Databricks for now or Snowflake, whatever your company choosing. You have a storage layer, and even they now going with the real time also, right? If you have a Delta live table, I think. So they have a concept called the Delta live table. It can actually wait for an event, kind of a trigger, whether it is from Kafka or any kind of source file or on ADLS or wherever you want to configure, you can actually configure that instead of job is running like in a batch mode, it will be running in a real time and it will populate all the Delta uh, uh, live table. This is what the difference between a lot of thing components available here. And then Delta Lake, which we having here is a storage. It is very easy, right? It is like a normal SQL server where you can able to have a versioning concept and you want to go to any version back to the schema compatibility. Everything is there. We can simply go through a particular version and revert the schema if needed. So all those things are there. It is very easy, right, to
Yes.
have a storage over there in Delta Lake.
Yeah.
It is very good. So that is the main reason we have a ETL migration, whatever happening. So we are trying to move away from traditional ETL tool. So we choose actually Databricks PySpark code where we want to, because that job, what we're running in ETL, it may run within a minute, having a millions of records, having a faster processing, right? There is a lot of parallelism available in any of. Without parallelism, we cannot think of any ETL job, right? The same parallelism we need to achieve. The job is running in half an hour. I need to make sure the same job complete on time with the schedule. So the setup is having a PySpark where we can able to get the same output whatever we are getting in the ETL. So for that specifically that migration and do and move into the cloud native platform, we choose actually Databricks in our
Correct.
company.
See,
Yeah.
yeah, one more. I like to add few more points. See, there are a lot of people telling that learning cloud is very easy or becoming a cloud architect is very easy. Actually, the first statement is correct. Learning cloud is very easy, but becoming a cloud architect, you need to have a lot of strategies. You have to learn. That's why I always tell people that connect with the existing cloud architects and talk to them, so they will let you know a lot of ideas. With because calling any service or creating any service is just few minutes work, not even sometimes few minutes. Nowadays, everything are just instant. Just click a create button and you get it. But how do you utilize? Let's say here Manoj has given a lot of points. Let's take companies investing 5 million on a on-premises environment, and and that on-premises environment has let's say the 5 million includes license for 5 years also. If your cloud costs more than 5 million, then that is a failure, because company on a business side, they are comfortable with on-premises. And the on-premises environments are not poor. This is one feedback which I'm seeing many the training videos or somebody in the marketing or the event, they say that eradicate on-premises, which is legacy and slow. Not everything are slow. So the on-premises systems are also effectively fast. I've seen a lot of companies move to cloud. They cannot achieve the ETA what on-premises is doing. Okay, this is most important thing. I've seen, like, there are some use cases where when they do production, the business is asking question that on-premise or the previous environment is running it in 5 minutes. Why your query is running for 15 minutes? Okay, which is complicated because you have to these are like no like these are common in the organization. Not all your 100 queries which are running faster in on premises would run the same thing in cloud. Your business will thrash you saying that, okay, they will ask some questions which makes you feel very bad, because that happens. This is nature. Okay, so on now, don't have a thought that on premises are always poor. That is the lot of on premises systems are very good. And the next is coming to the cloud migration, the cluster capacity and all those things, right? So you have to derive it properly, reuse the maximum things, and get a proper planning, and eventual size improvements are most important thing. And the one of the most interesting thing which I have seen at many places is, I've seen one guy or one set of team, like uh, consider there are 15 jobs with 20 GB containers, 4 cores, and 10 number of containers, okay, executors, like Spark executors. I've seen they were using that as a template for all the jobs. Okay, there are possibilities that some job may take very huge amount of data where you have to size it differently, and some job which may take 10 GB of data, that is a very huge amount of resources you are giving into them. So even though the job runs for 5 seconds or 10 seconds, consider an environment with 1,000 jobs scheduled. Those 5-10 seconds is the cost. Okay, so you have to properly size the environment. Not all the jobs need same space. So this is one of the most a blunter mistake many engineers are doing. Just assume that, okay, this guy has created a, or they think that that is a standard in the organization. There is no standard. You have to decide like which job need how many space, and if the job needs more space, get an approval and give the space. Or and also that's what the biggest mistake is, dynamic allocation. Not every job need dynamic allocation, where if it is required for certain high priority business P1 jobs, yes, please give it. If not, you have to reduce it. Yeah, Manoj, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I'm gonna bet detail about the architecture regarding actually the data set. What are we doing in our current company or any company where they will use it, right? So as of now, we are trying to move it from ETL, right? So whatever jobs is currently available, maybe like mostly, right, our job is having a SQL server or any kind of a cloud native, that bucket or ADLS as a source. So what we used to do, so as Navneet mentioned, right? So now in a GCP, the BigQuery is what is it's actually very good, effective, right? So what happened? We are creating a lot of data marts in BigQuery based on different use case. For example, for we have like a 10 or 15 data marts within BigQuery. So what we used to do, right? So the main thing we want to achieve, no need to write same code again and again. Even if it's different sources, if the transformation is everything is same, let's try to create a framework first, right? So it is not that kind of it is framework. It is very useful. We can actually rewrite framework if there is a new server or a new source is being added. So the batch architecture, whatever we are using, so we have a job schedule like an every hour or 2 hour in Databricks, so which will populate different data mart based on the sources we are reading. But the thing is, no need to get a separate. If it is sometimes there is a stored procedure which is running in a SQL Server, which we need to convert. That may be a big stored procedure. In that case, maybe a separate job needed. So sometimes we used to call a stored procedure itself from actually the database, which is not good, but we are doing in the meantime. But eventually, everything we need to convert into database, right? All the bad job is what we are doing from a different sources. We are trying to read the data and populating different data marts in BigQuery. But the main thing is here it's better to create a framework. So without framework, it's a problem because database we have actually a widget, all those parameter we can use. So what are we are trying to do as actually a data engineer, we actually no need to think of a one particular use case or one particular job because we are in a kind of a converting mode, or sometimes we will be writing a scratch code. If you are working as a lead engineer, any kind of a senior engineer, you need to think of creating a framework so that it can be reusable, right? Because of the queries in sometimes two or three different sources, it may be contribute to one particular table in a particular data set in BigQuery. So the schema is same, well, you write a two different code, right? Or even the mechanism of transformation. Sometimes we'll be sourcing from some of the SQL Server, but there is no transformation. We are just reading the entire data collectively in the batch, loading into BigQuery, right? In that case, also it is better to create a framework instead of doing a same work, the rework again and again. Right, so
Correct.
that is way you can able to call the same notebook in the workflow database with actually a different parameter passing to the workflow so that the same job will run different mechanism based on the sources you are giving, right? That
Yeah.
is where it is very easy. Let's say even like
Correct.
ETL, we have actually a parameter and password encryption. Here also in database, we have actually password, everything can be encrypted and stored within database. And we are trying to use actually Google Secret Manager or Azure, Azure,
Keyword.
right? Azure Key Vault,
Keyword.
yeah, Azure Key Vault. But there is a problem in database. Still now we are not able to connect to any of the external secret vaults. So we are trying to use, as of now, we are doing encryption within Databricks and storing the value, and it will get actually decrypted when the job is running. So, but better to create a framework anywhere you are using, so it is very easy, right? A reusable job is always a heavy of the data engineer would think of. So think of everything in a reusable manner. If you are a senior engineer, so that it will be very easy, and then
Correct.
all your actually time-consuming work will be reduced. And about the BigQuery data mart, specifically, it is not like in a SQL mode. In SQL, you have a server and then actually database and then schema and then table. Here it is different in BigQuery, like only a project, and instead of schema, they have a layer called the data set. They used to call us a data set. After data set, it will be directly table. So there is no concept of schema here in BigQuery. After project, it may be a database. Only that changes actually between the regular SQL servers and the BigQuery. This is the one change. This is what the batch architecture. So we are
Correct.
not owning a multiple jobs, maybe like a 5 or 10 jobs, which will do the entire work for us, because we kind of whenever there is a new source, anything is newly added, we will try to go to the framework and change the condition or adding some new code based on the new sources so that the existing framework can be reused in all the projects.
Yes. So normally, there's BigQuery is a serverless computing environment. That's why Manoj was telling that you don't have to plan the thing. You can just create a project and do it. And regarding the framework, for the past 3 weeks, I'm writing a lot of LinkedIn posts about this framework only because nowhere it has been taught. Okay, so none of the people who teach Spark or other environment, most of them they are not exposed to a proper industry standard where if you see 80% of the organizations are using frameworks, okay, on premises or also on cloud. Let's say the framework comprises of one or let's say two or three, depends upon the organization's complexity for certain jobs, where the first framework takes the data from the sources. So eventually you can have initially you can have separate certain set of sources which you use by default, and eventually you can add the new sources also based upon thing. And you also, there are some organization who takes data from APIs. So all those are actually derived or are connected through the ingestion framework, where ingestion framework takes the data and load the data to the staging layer, okay, or a staging platform, or a staging data store. Okay, it could be SQL, or it could be ADLS, or unstructured storage, or anything. Okay, but that should be the work of ingestion framework. Ingestion framework takes the data from your external sources or your upstream and load the data to the staging. From the staging, there are I told you, right, there are two or three. As per the tool, you can do it directly curation. You can do a basic Q quality checks, and then the curation can be started. So on the curation, you can apply SQL queries. So the SQL queries can be automatically converted to Spark job, because Spark the SQL directly supports. And then the results can be stored in the consumption layer, or the storage layer before consumption for QC. That is different one. As per the second methodology, the schema. Okay, so most of the companies have various different schema, where schema file can be supported, and the upstream data can be validated against the schema and QC framework. This is called as QC framework, where the data from the upstream, before it is transmitted to the processing, the QC have to be properly validated. So the data from the staging will be validated against the schema of the consumption. So if the data are not matching, you get a alert. Or if the data has a quality check, DQ rules will be applied, and sometimes masking will also be applied. Regional location, geolocation masking, geolocation mapping, a lot of things happens. Okay, so based upon that, the second framework work. Third framework is obviously the curation, or we can say processing framework. Any name you can give. Okay, that processing frameworks perform the ETL actual transformations, and everything happens there. And those data will be stored in the consumption layer. It could be a direct table query, some or views, or even APIs which can take the data from the data views or databases. So frameworks play very important role, not only in batch. In nowadays, we are also writing frameworks for real time. Real time frameworks are pretty complicated, but with the proper architecture, we can derive all the components. And let's say there was a customer who was using a real time framework, but upstream data was actually having a few issues, which means if you are using real-time framework, you have to be very clear, because anytime some data would be having some issue, that has to be handled, and the
Yeah, data
data
loss
will
will be very huge.
yeah, data loss will be quick, which you have to handle it in a such way that the data which are not matching the QC have to go on a different queue. Those queuing systems have to be properly handled, because it's going to be real time, which means not one Kafka queue where three. I will have a session about this, because this is one of the most interesting thing, and many organizations are doing it now, because batch is becoming common. The real time is the most challenging one, where we have to do multi-tier queuing mechanisms for creating a real-time framework, which we'll be discussing sooner. Maybe in another month, April, I'll plan for it. So framework will be the heart of your batch processing. And without, if you want to know framework, you can whatever framework implementation, you can even connect with Manoj, or you can connect with me, or there are a lot of other data engineers who are actually working on framework. Rather than no none of the most of the companies, I would say 80-90% of the companies don't write Spark job for every processing. Definitely, if they are writing, they are doing a very bad practice. Okay, doing framework is the common and the easiest. I would say you can orchestrate it in a very well way, and you can develop the code much faster. So yeah, go ahead, Manoj.
Yeah. One more thing to add on here in the database. I told we are using PySpark. The problem, not a problem with that. So the traditional ETL tool, we have a upset or update concept, right? So here with the Spark, we cannot actually do that to BigQuery. So the update and all those things are will not work. So you need to have a delete and insert, or you need to actually truncate and reload. if there is a kind of a real-time table, right? So we cannot do a truncated load. The source is kind of only a kind of a micro batch. In that way, what you need to do, right? To make sure you have a merge apply, right? So BigQuery have a merge concept like other SQL, right? So we can actually call the BigQuery API within the data bricks. So like that, whatever Navit mentioned, we can have a staging table within the BigQuery to whatever data coming in the new batch, we can load to a staging table, and then we can call the BigQuery API within Databricks and apply a merge against the actual target table, and then we can actually clean the staging table for the next batch. Because I told you the Spark only most of the things people are using in Databricks, so there's a problem while updating any of the whether it's a BigQuery any target, so we cannot do update, right? So that particular thing based on the application, you need to find out what is the best way to do a upsert or update. So that is a one thing to add on while using database to BigQuery. Okay. And the same thing with the real-time architecture. I told already we're using a Kafka for almost 4 years in our company. So what happened? All the real-time parsing, like there is an ML project where we are doing it to make sure customer going to try something in the knowledge base or something in the health center. He want to actually type something and want to understand about mortgage or some kind of a question, whatever he wants, he's actually doing. Right? In the real time, there is a report need to be generated, and the business need to actually understand who clicked on what, whether he actually read the entire PDF, that customer, whether the customer give a proper feedback, whether that actually the PDF is useful for the customer, instead of having a callback and asking actually what is escrow, what is my EMI, why I need to pay this much tax, all those questions. If there is a article present within the company website, right, whether it is properly using by the customer, whether they're not actually calling back, whether they're getting satisfied within the PDF content. So they want to understand it. In that kind of real-time data, what's happening. So there's a data coming in real time, and somebody click on the UI, some kind of a PDF that is coming to Kafka. So we are storing the real-time changes also into Google Cloud Storage. And there is a consumer. Even as a consumer, we can put in the container or anything, but we're using a database as a whole. So we can have a consumer Kafka consumer within the database. So which will, it is not a bad job, right? So there is a interactive cluster and there is a job cluster. Two modes are there in database, right? One is for a batch job and one is for a streaming job. So one for the streaming job, we can use a job cluster. So that code will always up and down. So here only we need to make sure if this is a Kafka consumer you're gonna use based on the source data incoming, right? You need to actually define what kind of a spot config you need. Like Navanit already mentioned, we cannot give a same value for all the things. If it is a Kafka consumer, you need to understand what is the real-time data constant. It is very huge or not. For example, in a day, not a 1 million customer can go to the UI and search for the content. So based on the data incoming, you need to choose the config because this code is always up and running. It is not a bad job. So it will take a lot of cost and storage. You need to make sure what is the config you are actually putting in the consumer. So the record in real time, it is coming to the BigQuery report will be generated. In that report, right, the particular business manager or someone who can view the report and see exactly what happening in the data and so time. So whenever there is a real time need, we will use a Kafka in this use case, and we will use a consumer as a processing layer and Google. So because we consume, we use actually Databricks. So instead of putting in a Docker, whether it is a Azure Kubernetes or kind of other thing, it is another waste of money here in monitoring, right? Better we use it this consumer of Kafka, we can simply use in a database and we can get the effective output. So wherever there is a real-time need with the same database, instead of writing a normal Python code, so we are actually consuming data from Kafka in real time, and what other processing we are need, we are doing necessary transformation within the database, and we are loading into BigQuery. This is one of the real-time architecture is need sometimes, and there is a one more use case which I want to tell. Sometimes what happening, as I told, there is a ADLS and bucket and SP, right? So there are different components. Sometimes the business will place the files, right? So how to consume that in real times? Sometimes there is a problem. We can have a API in database, which we can consume the file directly from ADLS. The problem, all the ADLS, all the bucket, everything like in a Windows folder, right? You can partition by data. However, there is a lot of subfolder maybe. The processing files in the real time from the storage, it is very tough. So in that case, what we will do? So we have, for example, consider in Azure, we have a concept called event grid. So whenever there is an event triggered in ADLS, the metadata of that ADLS will come to Kafka in real time. From that, we consume the data and go to the particular ADLS part and download the file and processing within a database and once again store into BigQuery. So
Correct.
these kind of cases also in the real time where there is a ADLS or S3 at decimal bucket. So processing real time is very tough. So in that time, we are also using a Kafka where we getting the metadata alone, whatever data inserted into the bucket or storage, we will move that into somehow Kafka in real time, and we will read that JSON only the path we will take it, and we'll actually download the path data content from bucket and be processing. So these kind of architecture we are following wherever there is a real time needs in the company.
Yeah. Manoj gave a very good statement that the need for real time is one of the most important thing, because when you see, you have to think that your real time processing directly takes your processors, which means the underlying VMs will be consumed. So I have seen few systems which are actually having Delta utilized for everything, where they get data once in 6 hours, or you have to. That's what you have to understand the frequency. Or some customers will be having. So you have to understand the business. That is the most important thing. Yes, if the business gets clicks so all over the time, yes, 100% you can utilize it, because those are most important thing. Some business will be having active working hour based process, and also after working hours they will be having a system that, okay, we will be responding within 1 hour. In that case, you can automate your system in such a way that during the working 10 hours, you can have a real time pipeline running. And after that, you can even have a batch of 1 hour, or a 40 minutes batch which can run. That is one of the interesting thing where the cost will be reduced, because the live delta synchronization takes the VM on a, always that VM will be on hold, the resource will be utilized. And when there are more data coming in, that can be split toward more instances. So that is the important thing. You have to align with your business, and you have to create your business case or the solution as per the business. Because maybe after 9 o'clock, I have a downtime on my data center where the process happens where every 1 hour, or I'll be having a less number of people working. So I don't expect a real time response. So during that time, it's an off time process can be batch. So these are the strategies as a very good data engineers you have to do, uh, just an advice. And also pick the real time wherever it is necessary. Because if it is purely batch, if you feel like, okay, every half an hour I can start a batch job and it finishes in 2 minutes, not that is not required for a real time, unless the business is in need of it. So ETA is the most important thing, and the business urgency, based upon it, you have to select the component, because this real time architecture is costly. Okay, because VMs will be running, the services will also be running, the watchdog would be looking on the ADLS, or whatever it is. So everything costs in any cloud. Okay, so you have to clearly, if you are not justifying it properly, or if you're not framing this pipeline in a proper way, you end of the day you get a very big bill. So that is what one of the interesting thing. Go ahead, Manoj.
And that is the one thing, right? When using real-time architecture, you need to make sure whether what is the real-time needs. As we have a Kafka as an enterprise platform in our company, so whenever some trying to onboard creating a topic, or if there is a consumer added without knowing us, nobody can do anything, any processing. So we want to make sure what is the need of it, but what is the point of having it in a real time. So already the job
Correct.
is running and producing every 15 minutes, there is output. So what is the need of
Correct.
15 minutes, 15 seconds? if they need the output, what is the real point of it? Only if it is a real, we will onboard that Kafka topic and give necessary access to the particular topic in Kafka. Otherwise, we will not
Yes.
onboard. So there is a proper review. We need to make sure they're creating a topic in Kafka, or if it is in a real time, need to have a proper decision before onboarding any kind of a new customer to the environment.
Yeah, you can onboard a job which is taking data from real time, but your Power BI refreshes in a day. That is not a good pipeline.
Correct, 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 correct. Exactly. Yeah. I just going with one of the big issues we face and while building a Bitcoin. So I think first of all, we before 1 year back, we had a tool called actually Click Replicate. I don't know nowadays we had a company called Click
Yeah,
tool
Affinity.
like so that's Affinity. So we use that Affinity tool. For example, there is an IBM CDC happening, for all the exams mainframe files coming to a staging layer to any company. So that is a kind of a costly. We are trying to move away from that, right? I think that time we were using the Affinity tool. I think we processed like an 400 to 500 table we need to create in real time. It is giving a good performance initially when you try to create the all 500 tables in fly in the BigQuery when you tried. The first month bill is actually a big, this almost a kind of $100,000. So then we found out why we are getting at this much bill. Because at the initial time, we have the one onboarding to BigQuery. We don't know what is the actual cost of BigQuery and what will happen if you query. The problem with that, the same like actually now it said, so they created a BigQuery table, BigQuery project with the dynamic pricing. So what happened? There's a kind of a slot concept in BigQuery. The slot is they're putting as based on dynamic actually parallelism. It will achieve based on incoming data because we are storing almost 20 million record per day inserting, and we are doing some processing. With having a max of capacity, it is you utilize the entire parallelism and slots. What happening? We end up in getting that much better. So after that, only we understood in BigQuery also there's a concept of slots where we can the parallelism whatever we want to achieve, we can keep that. After we kept to a minimum of 100 because we are only storing the data. We are not actually coding at that point of time. Even storing the data, we get that much bill. So then we understood, right? So there is a concept called rather than pay as you go. There is a slot concept. For example, if there is a billions of records, we want to do a aggregate in BigQuery with the slots with an 100, right? We can run only one query. If you want to run 15 query or 20 query at a max, or maybe that BigQuery have hundreds of consumers, we need to make sure what is the slot we need to keep it so that right everyone will get a query in a fraction of seconds. So not we need to while creating in BigQuery or if you in any company if you want to work on BigQuery, right? Just make sure if this is new, you can actually check with the manager, someone, what is the slot we use in this BigQuery? Because the slot thing is what the problems. Sometimes that BigQuery marketing person from cloud, the GCP cloud, they won't say, right? This kind of advertising or marketing, right? They won't say. So better go with the minimum slots at the initial phase. Once after you're moving to production, or if you find a more number of consumers in that particular data set, more people are using. Sometimes there will be a query will be slow. Then you can understand and see the capacity, how it is actually transferring across the query, and based on the query, whatever you are putting, the slot also will be big. In the BigQuery window, we can able to see the number of slot consumed when you try to run the query. So based on that, you will end up in getting a cost. But if you keeping as a minimum, you will get the query maybe 5 seconds or 10 seconds late. But if you give actually the dynamic rate, you'll get the result in second, even processing billions of record and giving an aggregate. But actually the cost is different. So even in BigQuery, if you go with the GCP, you need to make sure what the slot we are using. So based on the project and based on the conception you are doing, please try to understand the slot concept, and you can actually increase. However, it told scale up, scale down previously, the same kind of way. Here also we can scale up and scale down based on the effectiveness of the consumer who were onboarding into that particular data set. Anything to add now, Nikhil?
Go ahead, Manoj. You can go to the next slide. This is fine. Very clear.
Okay. Okay. And migration project and what are we working on, right? So the data set, so whatever I told, the data fix, whatever we are using. The data stage I told is a bit of costly, so we are moving from data stage to Databricks. So that is where the problem, not a problem in the sense that all the ETL tools, whatever we are using, they have a kind of a check, right? Kind of a restartability, right? For example, the job is paid at a certain point of time. If any of the support team going and start the job again, so there is a thing where we can restart from where it is actually failed. So those kind of a ETL things, there is a kind of a big advantage if you're using a ETL tool, but that is not available in other Databricks or Snowflake. That is actually one of the problem, but we need to address that, right? For example, the job is failed in Databricks. You need to, if there is a 2 or 3 tasks you are adding it. If one task is failed, someone is restarted. So first 2 tasks will again start again. In other ETL tool, it's not. So you need to make sure if you're building a task, you need to build your Python program to make sure the first 2 table, it is not actually loaded again if it is already loaded. So those kind of a simple things based on the actually the traditional ETL tool and the new modern tool, you need to make sure you need to adopt and think of the approach and build the code efficiently. So that is actually first thing about data stage. And ADF is Azure Data Factory. So where we have a SIS also. SIS also is a kind of a Microsoft code. You can actually export SIS job and you can import into ADF, which will work actually similar way because those architectures are similar because it is coming from same Microsoft. So that ADF, what happened? The problem with the ADF is that the runtime is bit costly. The same like a database, how we told called compute. There it is called as a runtime. That runtime and the linked server where we need to link to a server. So those kind of a bit costly. If you run kind of a 2 hours a job, so the cost is kind of a bit high. You're running like 20 or 30 jobs, maybe it is the cost is a bit high. So what happened? That cost is very less when we move to cloud native platform. So what happened? There is a 150 job across the entire project in different hubs. So what we are trying to do, we identify a pattern and we are trying to create a framework in the database for that, right? No need to convert all the 150 jobs. The same like actually Navneet said from the scratch. If you're trying to do a migration, find a pattern of the job and find a commonality and create a framework for that job. So it will be easy. You no need to convert all the 150 jobs. If you find a 3 or 5 pattern in that 150 job, can create only 5 different framework and create a schedule, maybe 150, and we are passing those things as a parameter, right? That will work. So try to go it in the framework way, which is very better if you're trying to migrate. Any company who want to move to cloud, this is the first thing you need to consider if you're moving to database, any kind of a Python native thing. If we are working in any of the tool, you try to convert, trying to take all the job and put a Excel and try to identify the common pattern. If it is a truncate and load, and there is no transformation, sometimes it is a direct load. Try to identify the pattern and create a common framework, which will help us to migrate very easily. Okay? And then there is a data mart. So what happened to Snowflake have a actually capability, right, to share data across organizations, sometimes outside organizations. So what happening, right? Um, like our company having a partnership with other companies, consider 2 companies. Everyone is using a Snowflake. So they have a agreement to share data between them. So somebody is already doing a transformation and creating a data model. So this company cannot do the same kind of rework again and do the same conversion, creating a data model, the same ETL job. So there is a 2 teams working on the duplicate data. If you have a data already present in the other company's Snowflake, correct? In that case, what happened? There is a thing called where we can share data across a different organization. So within a single button, right, the other company can be able to actually expose their data as read only to the other company's Snowflake environment. So they can read the data. So what happened in that case with the Snowflake, right? No need to do a migration or any kind of a work. If other company have the same data, if they have a agreement with them, instead of having a separate team and building the same data mart again and owning all the code, if somebody is already doing it, if they have a partnership with them, Snowflake have opportunity to have a copy to other company where we can able to get the, we can able to see the same database in our Snowflake where we can read the data without any development per se. Right? It is very easy. This is one of the migration. As I already told, it's a kind of a ADM. So all these things are migration project. If you see all those things, we are trying to move away from a traditional ETL to all native platform.
Correct.
So we need to
See, here,
understand that.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
here few things which I
come on.
would like to add. Go ahead. Can you go to the data stage to Databricks? Is like it's a very common. The ADF to Databricks is something which people may get confused. Why ADF to Databricks? Manoj explained very clear concept called runtime. So ADF has a different runtime, and yeah, in the olden days, like olden days in the sense olden days of cloud, which is few years before. So don't take me wrong, very old days when what happened was this Databricks was not available. As I mentioned, we were using SD Insights and other things where SSIS to ADF was a lift and shift migration where they gave utility so that the SSIS packages can be directly migrated to ADF and we can do it. And also during that time, there were a few source database, which was MS SQL Server. So we SQL Server was moved to cloud, okay, and then the SSIS packages were moved to ADF. So now what they are doing is those ADF packages they are migrating to Databricks for the effective utilization. This is one thing where the company was following a stage-wise migration. So which
Yeah,
means most of the mature companies are first they do SSIS to ADF, then ADF to Databricks, which means on the data side, SQL Server hardware to SQL Server cloud, then SQL Server to the data lake, like those kind of migrations happens. And data mart to Snowflake, like you the reason for that is that the mortgage company is having a white label entity where the same services should be taken as a white label to the different organization, and also the upstream company. Like there are three companies: home service company, mortgage, and also the mortgage white label company, where all of them wants to use same data at some point. Okay, so though they have three different infrastructure with all the ACLs and the network policies and everything, certain data they have to share because it comes as it works as a central repository. That's the reason why they preferred Snowflake to have a shared data lake. So that was the one concept of Snowflake and SSIS to Databricks. Nowadays, like now there is no transition of moving to ADF. It's direct to Databricks is actually happening. Go ahead, Manoj.
yeah, yeah. That is a good thing, right? Like Navani said. So based on actually the how cloud is moving, and how we are moving, if the companies able to move or evolve within the cloud and keep in within actually 1 year or 2 year difference, it is very easy for the company to grow. If you have a lag of 4 years or 5 years not moving up to the cloud, it's a problem. You need to work on only migration project for 2 or 3 years after some time. Entire company. Like Navani said, like SIS to ADF and ADF to Databricks. So we are doing to mostly cope up and make sure we are in line with the recent cloud native product. If you are trying to avoid that due to a smaller cost, if you're not able to identify smaller project, these kind of smaller project, if you not want to move away from that, it's a problem after 5 years down the line. You will have and end up doing only migration project, right? That is why we need to avoid these kind of things. So whenever there is opportunity to move away and you move into a recent platform, you try to move it and get it done. I think I already told the need for framework, right?
Yes, need for
Navneet
framework
also
we've discussed
explained
enough.
clearly. Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
you can ask the questions, guys. If you have any questions or if you want to have more clarification, we can have the Q&A open. So you can
yeah.
unmute one by one or raise your hand or whatever you can do. Yeah. Anybody have any question?
Any questions? Saturday, I know.
I have a
No,
question
I think
now.
the session was pretty clear. That's the reason. I think not many questions.
Yeah, we started getting some questions. What is the pricing model of Databricks on AWS? So Manoj, you have any idea of Databricks pricing model? I know like it's like a compute and the storage, right? They have two different
Yeah,
pricing model.
the, I think
Yeah,
the
if you
thing
have,
is like maybe like actually the basic data bricks actually the license cost maybe it kind of the same. For example, whether it is in AWS or GCP or Azure, right? You are trying to procure some kind of a marketplace product in a particular GCP, right? So that is thing. But if you have a kind of a backend credit you already available, taking a storage with the GCP, it kind of is different. So it is based on how you're using the tool, right? The storage and everything, it is
Number of
changed
jobs.
according to the company, yeah, number of jobs. The basic pricing and licensing will be the same cost, but maybe whether it is an AWS or anything, it may be same. But how are you using it effectively? Right? If you're having a license of same cost, but you're not having only a 10 jobs, if you're not utilizing a data engineer to work on actually cloud project, it is a problem. So the pricing model will be same, like maybe in all the cloud native thing. But the thing is how you are end up using that storage and all those things matter. If you have a kind of the 30 real time job is always running for a year, your cost is different. So the model is maybe a basic license will be same across all the clouds, but whatever you end up on using, it has been different. That is what I'm saying. You need to have a procure any kind of a cloud tool. You need to make sure you're using efficiently in a manner so that right you will have that thing ready.
Yes.
Yeah, hi.
It
That was here, Manoj. And
is the
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for the explanation. I just want to ask you this thing based on your experience. Like, if I am going for a big data environment on AWS, right? Like you have mentioned, Databricks on AWS, it's kind of like they are pricing two-way model. They are charging for the services on the Databricks as well as the at the back end the computational power, like
Yeah.
how the EC2 is running. So it's kind of like a Databricks on Azure. It's kind of like single billing. It's straightforward and easy. But on AWS, kind of like a two-way charge. They're charging like two-way
Okay.
method. So based on your experience, what you suggest, like Databricks on AWS is kind of like cheaper, or AWS EMR? Um, that's
Got it,
that's
but we are using only on GCP and Azure, so we are not using AWS. So now, if you have any idea on this
Okay,
billing
so
part?
the for Dawood, I would still say that see the agreement between the cloud companies, let's say Azure and Databricks, they have a very close agreement. But you know one thing, they are also released. The Microsoft have also released Synapse, which will definitely hit us the Databricks a lot because they have their own in-house tool. Likewise, if you see EMR is one of the very mature tool actually. But Databricks came up with the model where you have the notebook and other things. See, the effective utilization is one of the most important thing. I would still say that AWS with Databricks can give you better utilization, better cost. Because in EMR you have to do other services, and again the use cases in Databricks, you have direct ML ops and all those things which are integrated, right? If you take the different components in AWS, it has a different cost. So always, if you are using AWS with Databricks, even though it has a two-level costing, the utilization overall for your use cases will be less. Okay. But if you are not using very aggressive data computing, and if you have only very basic data engineering jobs, you can still use AMR.
got it. Got it. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Because Databricks have some integrated services which can actually save your cost if you take a single bundle. Okay, so there was a question from Prasanna. Can you brief key takeaways from our data analyst for today's? Okay, see, data analyst. This role is actually a kind of a hybrid role, I would say. Like you should be very good in SQL. So all the see, you can the key takeaway for you is to have a proper understanding about the computing framework, so that you know that this data would arrive at 9 a.m. and you have to take the data and do your analysis reports and other things. So those you definitely have to understand this architecture. So because I've seen many data analysts, they say that okay, I query the data and then I do whatever things for the business. But it is always good you go back, backtrack it and understand. So you also become a data engineer. You already have a opportunity to sit with the data engineers. Just ask them what are those. Then in future, this data analyst job will actually be mostly automated because there are a lot of systems coming which are I have seen some meetups recently that consumption layer to the reports. there are few automations coming. There are few organizations which are providing started doing uh, certain cube creations on an automated way. So I would suggest that yes, data analyst, you have to understand the business. You need to know where to pick the data and what kind of reports or what kind of analysis you have to do. But I would say that it's very easy for you to become a data engineer because you already know SQL very well, and you are already a 60% data engineer. You just have to understand the framework and start your hands-on. So that's one of the
Yeah. So add on to
yeah.
knowledge, right? There is a click tool. They are also having a reporting tool. I just have something like before a 2 week, sometime back. There's some of my friend who working on the click reporting tool. He's saying even if you can speak, whatever we are speaking,
Mm.
be able to derive all the data
Show
and
it as a
giving a
report.
report in a quick second.
Yes.
It is
The
very
LLM
easy.
has
It's
been
actually
integrated.
showing in that way.
Yeah. The
Yeah, it
LLM
is
has been
live.
integrated, where
So
the
it is
speech to
very easy
report
for.
technologies are coming. Where in that case, you say that, okay, I want a report of this particular country on the date between this and date give me a report with this metrics. There are LLM
Yeah.
which are creating reports.
So in that case, right, the only way data analyst or data engineer may be right, they need to build only a data mart based on the report needs. So what happened? There is no need to give any kind of information to the business. Business can come and talk with any kind of opening some chat, so it can able to derive kind of the dynamic information kind of a report in the UI. So we need to have a proper data, which is again a data engineer work. So I think that is why nowadays is mentioning the data analyst path maybe got changed. If you are already a data analyst, maybe if you're looking for a data engineer position, it is better to move.
Yeah. See, and one more thing, this should not be a threat to the BA developers, because BA developers, you still do the complex report. Complex reports cannot be automated. You have a report with dashboards of one dashboard with 10, 15 reports, and those complex algorithms still have to be solved. But the basic, let's say, instead of 100 reports, you may have all your 60 simple reports already solved through speech to report, and you have 40 or 30 reports which will still needs to be developed. But this is common, like the IT will go in a way. In future there would
Demand will
be,
be less.
yeah, demand will be actually have that is what that's how the companies promote their product, operational efficiency. So they say that, okay, you don't need admin, which means you still need admin, not 5 admins, you may need 1 admin. Okay. And they say you don't need like to create report all the time from the scratch. Yeah, well, give you what is that, speech to report, fantastic, yes, but speech to report cannot solve all the problem, but it will reduce the intake of Power BI or anybody. This happens in the data or in IT. This is going to be the next 10-year biggest problem, where the organizations gets more money, but the workforce will have problems. But the workforce have to be more smart, which means the people who work have to understand the current trend, which means the filter it's like a filter query, where when more filters are getting added, you get less results. Okay. That's what the AI is bringing to any market. AI is giving, whenever an AI is coming with new technology, it is like a new filter getting added. Okay. When new filter add, the results will be less, which means the demand for certain jobs will be less, which means if you want to be one of that result, you should have the skill which the filter can I mean, like you have to accommodate yourself so that the filter won't touch you. So that is why upskilling is most important thing, or I would say more than upskilling, you need to be very close to the industry. Okay, the skills are important, but how do you but like there are I seriously I'm against certain term that you have to spend 10% money on your learning. That is not. You have to be very close to the industry, and you need to have a proper mentorship, which actually tell that, okay, now you have to do this, because you don't have to do everything from the scratch. You don't have to learn everything as a module. You have to learn things which are making you disconnected, because you are already a data engineer, you are already a data architect. You need to know how the industry works. That is the most important thing, which makes you unique and fall out of the filter, which would actually give you a survival, because the next years, the upcoming years of IT is going to be much more challenging. So the smarter we are, and the closer we are with the industry, will give us more opportunities. And Karthik, yes, you have some question.
Yeah, Navneet. Actually, no, we are discussing about this pricing, right? About the components. We have multiple, cloud service providers. We have multiple, components we are using, and also from the development organization perspective, we are playing different roles like solution architect, developer, and cloud administrator. So, who is responsible, like, to decide this? If you take this component, it's going to price a lot. If you take this component, you can squeeze it in this way. So which role will be playing this?
Solution architect is the most important person here to give all the possibilities, and every companies will have a architectural review board. Okay, so which will be in a different name. So there is a forum of people with all the technology heads and others who would be doing this. So the architecture review board, the solution architect, the cloud architect or the cloud solution enterprise solution architect or enterprise data architect, this person have to provide, because I was a solution architect for one product development for a bank, where we presented all the possibilities. We presented, okay, with this, okay, you have this advantages, and these are the complexities, these are the problems, these are the use cases the application is trying to solve. So this application needs this particular component needs Neo4j for for one particular use case, because the organization was already having Neo4j. So we need one tenant access to Neo4j. Likewise, we have created a complete model, and that was presented to the ARB. This ARB people, they are a group of solution architect. So they think on multiple aspects. Let's say from the application side, one guy used to say, okay, I'm happy to have this batch. I don't need it real time. Or I'm happy to put this, if it is even, if the job is even running for 15 minutes rather than 5 minutes, I'm fine. So likewise, there will be some compromises or some pushes we have to take, so that that's what it's not. It's not a complete solution architect responsibility on the decision side, but solution architect should give the clarity to the ARB, and ARB again comes up with a plan. So it goes one or two round actually, Karthik.
Okay. Okay. So basically, we need to keep updated with all the technologies and features so that we can give our suggestions, and it's again a collaborative approach to come up with
And
those
also, when you are a data architect or a senior guy, you need to also see how the application works, and you also need to know what are the objects they are going to use. Are they using Mongo? Are they using any other time series model for storing their temporary data? So end to end, you need to understand end to end. Not just you have to say data is my space, but if when you have a proper data infrastructure and the application is much more advanced than you have a problem. You have to tune your data infrastructure as per the application, because application may need records in milliseconds, or they must be accessed by millions of people per day. So it's all the whole alignment you have to do. You need to be very close with your whole architect, solution architect, application architect, and this has to be that's why they call it as critical role, because it's not just a very easy thing where we have to understand a lot of. If not, what happens is the architecture starts behaving bad. I mean, the infrastructure in the job started behaving bad, and you will have sleepless nights.
Yeah.
So
Understood.
our work-life balance is in our hand. So we have to, if we are doing proper planning and everything, we can have a proper infrastructure and control our work-life balance. But if we make some mistakes, or if we are very careless on certain areas, or if the data architect whom we are reporting is very careless on that area, that could give a sleepless night for the team.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Anyone else? Yeah, I think we are fine. So thanks a lot, guys. I will be uploading this recording in YouTube soon. It takes some another 20-30 minutes. So nice. Thanks everybody for participating in this. We'll be having few more sessions. Next week I'll be having one more session which is focused, which will be for the entry level data engineers, where I'll be pulling few more people. So Manoj is already doing a lot of things for our organization and NGO. and he is helping the students, underprivileged students who wants to become a data engineer. So he's running every week he is teaching them. That is for a trust owned by one of our friend. He's a head of a specific company where Manoj and I know one person called Shiva Kumar. I met him last week here, and Shiva is in Dubai. He's next to my house. So
Okay.
like yeah, so they are teaching, and I think in your foundation, how many people you have placed as a data engineer, Manoj?
50%
Yeah,
of
50
our team.
people
Yeah.
from the villages, those who got very good marks, and those who are not able to get placements after the colleges because of the communication, because of various different reason. These people are picking them, and also some of them are very poor. They cannot even have a proper survival for without their jobs. So they are picking the set of students. They are training them from Excel, SQL, uh, every relevant data engineering things, and they are making them getting placement on the company, referring them to the different organizations. Where I get a lot of feedback from the organizations who hired them that they are the best. So these guys are training them in such a way that those people are performing very well. So thanks, Manoj, for doing all those things. So like that's what. Let's see.
Thanks, Navneet.
Yeah. Yeah,
Thanks.
Pavendran, you can see my LinkedIn. There is a, I will post it along with my channel. My channel name in YouTube is Data Engineering Chronicles, where you can see. Maybe let me just share it with you right away. Give me a minute. How do I share it? This is my channel. Okay, I'm sharing it. Anything else, guys? I think we are fine. We are good. Thank you. Thanks everyone for the session, for attending the session. We'll have more sessions coming up in upcoming weekends. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Namin.